Let's talk now about calculating our landing distance. Just like takeoff distance, the same factors all contribute to it. Density, altitude, runway surface condition, wind speed, direction. How's my landing weight, which is a number a lot of us don't calculate. We always calculate our takeoff weight, but rarely do we calculate our landing weight. I'll be flying for an hour. I'm gonna burn this much fuel off. I'll be landing at this weight. It's an important number to know, as well as any landing obstacles I have to clear. So the same sort of factors that we talked about for our takeoff distances contribute to our landing distances as well. And believe it or not, we have the same chart plus some. Let's work through it again. Start in the top right corner. Outside air temperature, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Pressure altitude, 4,000 feet. Landing weight now, 2,800 pounds. Headwind of 10 knots. You should be real comfortable with these charts by now, but let's go through it just for that sake. 90 degrees Fahrenheit, going straight on up to my pressure altitude, nice and high this time, 4,000 feet. Straight on across to my reference line. What's my landing weight? It's 2,800 pounds. Parallel it down to that 2,800, then straight on across that reference line again. I have a headwind of 10 knots. I'll parallel it. Notice you parallel it quite a steep decline now for landing. Straight on down to 10 knots and then across to my reference line. Do I have to clear an obstacle? If so, straight on up, about 1,700 feet of runway is what I'm going to need to clear that FAA standard 50-foot obstacle. If there's no obstacle to clear, it's straight on across. I need about 1,100 feet to land safely. That's how much runway I need to get down and stop safely on the runway. Now there's another type of landing distance chart we use, and the FAA uses this as well on their actual written test. Let's look at that one real quick. You'll get questions like this. The pressure altitude is 7,500 feet, the headwind's 8 knots, the temperature is 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and the runway is a hard paved surface, is what they tell us here. Well, where do we need to start? Well, look at this here. We have flaps lowered to 40 degrees, power off, hard surface runway, 0 wind. All right, well, but it does fit us. Look underneath that. It says at 7,500 feet and 32 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the area I want to work with. However, we have a wind. So I need to figure out what I need to add or subtract to my landing weight because I have 8 knots of headwind. That's where the notes come in handy. Let's look at our notes now. It says to decrease the distances shown by 10% for each 4 knots of headwind. So now let's do those numbers and let's work through them. If I look at that column, my 7,500 foot pressure altitude column at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, it says my ground roll is 520 feet, and to clear a 50-foot obstacle, it's 1,255 feet. However, I have to subtract from that. It says 10% for each 4 knots. So I need to take 20% away from those numbers. So let's do that. I take my ground roll of 520, I subtract 20% from it to get 416 feet. I take my 50-foot obstacle distance of 1,255 feet, I subtract 20% from that to get 1,004 feet. This is why it's so crucial to always read the notes. If this was your FAA written test, I guarantee one of the options would have been the 520 or the 1255 without subtracting that 20% for those headwinds, because it's the FAA and they like to trick you on tests like that. It's so important you read through the notes. Calculating landing distances. Again, the charts may be different for your aircraft. This is from, I believe this chart's from a Cessna, the other chart was from a Piper aircraft. You may be flying a Diamond or a Cirrus aircraft or a Mooney, I don't know what you're working in. But your charts may differ slightly than what the FAA actually gives us. So again, look in your POH and look at your own landing distance calculation charts. Sit down with your CFI and get familiar with them. And I'll see you guys in the next lesson.